Hi everyone, I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. Today I'm going to be talking about Last Summer on State Street by Toya Wolfe. This is a book that I have had on my radar for a decent amount of time, I feel like, since it came out. Mostly because the author's from Chicago. This takes place in Chicago and kind of follows a real part of like Chicago history. This is a fiction book and you are mainly following this girl named Fifi Stevens as she is reflecting back on this fateful summer of her life. It takes place in Chicago in 1999. She is living with her mother and older brother in the Robert Taylor homes, which have officially been announced that they are going to be torn down by the Chicago Housing Authority. And so during this fateful summer, a lot of things change. She has these two best friends. One of them is this girl named Precious, who is like this devout Christian girl who lives in the neighborhood, and like her and her family like regularly go to church. Her father, I think, is a pastor. And then the other girl who is a part of this trio, his name is Stacia, whose family is on the opposite end of the spectrum. Everyone in her family is a part of this local gang and stuff like that. They're kind of this rough family in the neighborhood and things like that. But these girls have grown up together, and one day this summer, a new girl moves into the area whose name is Toya, and Fifi decides to invite her to play with them and do some double dutch, and that just kind of is the first thing that sets off a series of events over the course of this summer as these girls are growing up. Their homes are being torn down and their friendships are changing and evolving, and the choices that they have in life are bringing them down like a variety of paths. And so the story takes place mainly over the course of this one summer, although you do see a little bit of their lives post this summer. But it's mainly about how this summer was like the last summer on State Street. So yeah, like I said, I've had this book on my radar for a little bit and I finally picked it up, I think earlier this year. My husband actually picked it up for me. We went to a bookstore and he wanted to pick out a book for me, and so this is one of the ones he picked out, and I was like, oh, I actually have been wanting to read this book, so I picked it up, finally read it in December. But yeah, I really enjoyed my experience with this book for a number of reasons. One, I love coming of age stories, so this is like totally something that I was interested in. I think that if you are someone who enjoys Jacqueline Woodson and some of her books like Red at the Bone or Another Brooklyn and things like that, I feel like this has similar vibes to those books, following a young Black girl as she's growing up and things like that from like very specific neighborhoods or very specific families. But I also enjoyed it because it was set in Chicago. I love stuff like that. And it talks about like a very real part of history where there were these set of high rises that eventually got torn down, and like everyone was forced to like move into different parts of Chicago. And so like just seeing sort of the stories of some of the people who were majorly impacted by those changes and those, forced moves and things like that, seeing how the community changes over the course of just even this summer and as people are moving and shifting and things like that, is really interesting. I feel like even though this is like a pretty short book, there's a lot that's packed in here. You see these girls who all come from basically the same background, but you can tell like they're on the precipice of everything changing and all of them going on their own paths in life. And it's really interesting reading this book, just kind of curiously wondering like what's going to happen to all of them, and whether or not like their friendship can survive all of the changes that they're going through. I think that anyone who was young once and has had friends from childhood that like over time those relationships changed, whether it be because people moved or you just grow up and your interests lead you in different places and things happen in your life that lead you in different paths and stuff like that. And so therefore like those friendships just end up naturally dissolving and stuff like that. And you realize that those people are not just a part of your life anymore, and sort of the heartbreak that comes with that as well. I think that you'll be able to really relate to what's going on with these girls in this book. I feel like the author does a really great job of creating these four girls who are all similar but different, and they all feel like very real young women. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the author like pulled from people in her own life or something along those lines, because like all of these characters feel fully real and fleshed out. Even though this is a very short book, you see really heartbreaking things happen over the course of this book. You see just like the blatant racism that occurs in Chicago, as well as both on like an individual level as well as at like a government level, and the opportunities that are and aren't provided to different people in different neighborhoods and things like that. I think that this is a book that really grew on me over the course of reading it. Like, in the beginning I was like liking it, but I wasn't loving it, and then just as I kept going, I just fell more and more in love with this book. I really enjoyed just what the author was doing with these characters, with their stories, with what was going on in their lives. It's a really beautiful and heartfelt story that I highly recommend. Again, it's a relatively short read, so it wouldn't take anyone a really long time to be able to get through this book. But I think that it still just like packs a punch within like the relatively low amount of pages that it utilizes, which I always appreciate. So yeah, those are my quick thoughts on Last Summer on State Street. Let me know down in the comments below if you've read this book and what your thoughts were on it. If you did, or if you have any questions, feel free to leave that down in the comment section as well. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.